Welcome back. Well, now it's time for our special call-in show on coronavirus because many of you out there still have many doubts, many queries regarding coronavirus, its spread and also how to deal with it. We'll be joined by Dr. Mahera Desai, clinical psychologist and medical researcher joining us. Also joining us on the phone line right now is Dr. Anupam Sibal, senior pediatrician, Apollo Hospital Group. We already have our first caller. In fact, we have Kinshuk calling in from Chandigarh. Go ahead with your question, Kinshuk.
First of all, good morning to everyone.
Morning.
My question is that how can we distinguish between common cold and COVID-19?
All right. Well, Dr. Mahera, I think you can take that because this is something we're asked very often. It's also the flu season, change of season. So a lot of people get panicked with the symptoms.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chinchuk, for the question. The common cold usually has a lot of sneezing and that we see associated with it. What is typical of coronavirus and the disease it causes called COVID-19 is primarily fever and more of a dry cough and any sense of breathlessness. Those are the times when you call in for the doctor. If you're ever in doubt, please do not try to evaluate it for yourself. Reach out to your family doctor and they will guide you best.
All right. And Dr. Sibal, what would you say on this? Because will everybody have all these symptoms or may you have just some of the symptoms? Because I think we're all doing so much reading right now, trying to figure out, the most that we can regarding coronavirus.
Yeah, thanks, Kargi. What we are dealing with just now is not just a pandemic, but we are also dealing with an infodemic. As Dr. Tedros, the WHO Director General, said the other day, there's an information overload and, that's why this question is coming up. And the answer is relatively simple. It's very hard to distinguish symptoms of corona, the novel coronavirus from other viral infections. And just to put things in context, just from 17th February till 1st March, there were 62,000 cases of influenza in the world that were reported to the WHO. So over a 12-day period. So we see influenza A, we see influenza B, H1N1, which is the swine flu type of influenza A. You can have a common cold. You have a host of viral infections. It's very difficult to clinically distinguish corona from other viral illnesses, and that's something that needs to be kept in mind. But if you have risk factors, you might have been exposed to someone who is a confirmed case. You might have traveled abroad and have then developed symptoms of a cough, fever, fatigue, breathlessness, then you really do need to contact a health provider. And that's really important. Do not self-judge, do not self-medicate.
All right, I think both of you emphasizing this of not self-judging and self-medicating, and do reach out to a doctor. We have Lipsa calling in from Bengaluru. Go ahead with your question, Lipsa.
Yes, hi. A very good morning to all. My question is, now that we have a lockdown for the next 21 days, so I want to know that how can I disinfect the vegetables and fruits that I get from the door service?
All right, Dr. Mahera. So I think this is also something we get quite often because people are concerned about what is coming into their homes. While they're staying in their homes, a lot of items are coming from outside.
Absolutely. Please do not use soap and water or any disinfectant on food. Wash it thoroughly if you'd like. We know that the virus survives on surfaces for a few hours. So if you'd like, keep it ideally for about 24 hours aside. Wash it thoroughly. Most importantly, the virus does not survive with heat. So if you cook it well and if you eat well-cooked foods, there's nothing you need to worry about. And that even applies for meats.
All right, we have another caller, Nisar Ahmed from Bengaluru. Go ahead with your question.
Hello. My question to the doctors, if a person is suffering from COVID-19, how do the caregivers protect themselves from the patient? And I was told that the caregivers must be given hydroxychloroquine. And in most of the medical stores, the hydroxychloroquine, they are running out of it. And also, I was told that there are too much of side effects when it is given to the caregivers. Maybe let it be in the hospitals or in the houses itself.
All right,
so if I might come in, Gargi, yes. This is a question that keeps coming up because, we get a lot of queries about hydrochloroquine. The ICMR had a task force to look at chemoprophylaxis and it issued an advisory. And Nisar, this is for you. please hear this very carefully. Chemoprophylaxis is prescribed for healthcare givers who are in direct contact with someone that they with COVID-19 lab proven. So it's not about everyone in general, even in healthcare, people who go into hospitals. So it's about someone who's caring for someone who might have a confirmed diagnosis, or it could be also given on a prescription by a clinician to caregivers who have been in contact with someone who is a lab confirmed coronavirus confirmed case. So that's very important. You have to be either looking after these patients as a doctor, as a nurse, as a healthcare worker, or you have to be caring for them. A lab confirmation. This is not a medication that you pick up just because you've read about it on WhatsApp. It's not something that everybody has. It's not indicated, and we have in the last day or so seen side effects across the globe. Ever
Dr.
since
Sibal,
hydroxychloroquine became
many
popular.
People have turned to this because President Donald Trump spoke about it as a treatment, and I'm sorry to say, but in the US, there's been a case of a couple actually medicating themselves with chloroquine, and the man has died and the woman is in ICU, so one has to be very, very careful.
Absolutely. And if I may add to his question, the idea is, how do you protect yourself? If someone has symptoms, please do wear a mask when you're caring for someone who is a confirmed case. That is likely to keep you protected. If there is a confirmed case within your own household, please avoid children and elderly people interacting with them. It's the young people free of any premorbid conditions who should be caring for them, and that's the best way to go about it.
All right, we have Shashi Kumar calling in from Chennai. Go ahead with your question.
Hi ma'am, very good morning. This is Shashi Kumar. I'm from Chennai actually. So just want to know, we have a diabetes patient in my home. Actually wants to know how they can prevent themselves from coronavirus.
Sorry, who can prevent?
So
yes, go ahead, Dr. Sibal.
So Gargi, it's actually very simple. The guidelines are very clear. While someone with heart disease, someone with diabetes, people who are elderly are at a greater risk in how the body responds to this novel coronavirus should you get it. In terms of caring, the same principles apply. Stay indoors, avoid contact with anyone who might have got exposed, maintain social distancing. Please follow your regular prescription that you have. In case of a diabetic, make sure that your sugar is well controlled. So whatever you do every day in terms of looking after your diabetes needs to be looked after well. And that's it. There is nothing extra that should I get onto hydroxychloroquine? No, that's not something that has been recommended. Also, let me add this, hydroxychloroquine can actually result in fluctuation in blood glucose levels.
We have Janardhan calling from Hyderabad. Go ahead with your question, Janardhan.
Hello, ma'am. Very good morning.
Good morning.
Ma'am, my main question is generally I have a habit of going for a run or like that. So this self-quarantine is actually we are not able to go anywhere and all. So any indoor measures to take so that to stay fit in this kind of time?
All right, Dr. Mehra.
Absolutely. You've touched on a very important point. Exercise and taking care of yourself is going to be critical. This even applies to our previous caller. Right now, there is no known antiviral treatment specifically for COVID that's yet approved. Government has issued basis, research trials are on. But what is going to help you fight it, even if you do get it, is your own immune system. So it's important to take care of your health, to eat well, to sleep well, to maintain a routine and exercise as far as possible. Today, there are a lot of online apps which can help you with these workouts. There are support groups where tons of people are virtually coming together. And in these times, what I would like to add is that let's not use the word social distancing, because with social media, we are connected anyway. It's the physical distance that we are trying to maintain.
And important to keep, exercising, keep fit, because it also helps you deal with the stress of these times that we're currently in. This is something none of us have lived through ever, before. It's something we could never have even anticipated. So yes, a lot of stress, a lot of information overload, and it's important to keep mentally fit as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. So a lot of people ignore their own emotions. There is anxiety, there is anger, a lot of frustration amongst those who are tied up at home. That frustration needs to come out and vent it out. Physical exercise is one of the best ways to deal with that. So yes, absolutely. And in case you feel, no, I'm cool, I'm calm, please watch out for signs. If you're losing out on sleep, if you're constantly rechecking your phone or the television for updates, it is a cause for concern. It is important to also restrict the amount of time you're spending and try and lead as far a normal life within the restrictions placed down within the country.
All right. Dr. Sibal, we have a question from somebody from Europe actually has gotten in touch, and she's not on the phone line, but she said doctors have said not to touch the face. So does that mean only nose, mouth and eyes, or is it everywhere? Can the infection transit from our cheeks as well? So these are the kind of doubts, Dr. Sibal, if you could take that question.
No, absolutely. Absolutely, Gargi. I mean, it's when we say the face, it's the whole face. I mean, if you say been exposed to someone who's coughed on you, I mean, the virus doesn't choose to be on the nose and leave the cheeks or leave other parts of your face. And we have a tendency to touch our face several hundred times a day. So it's extremely important that we get out of this habit and we wash our hands. And I just, while on washing hands, I might add that while, getting access to alcohol-based sanitizers is great and it's good, but nothing like good old soap and water. Wash for 30 seconds. Make sure that you follow the steps of hand washing, and there are excellent videos available on the WHO website and elsewhere. Hand washing is crucial. Don't touch any part of your face.
All right. So Mahua, who called from Europe, I hope that answers your doubts regarding touching a face. We also have a caller from Bengaluru. Kiran, go ahead with your question.
Hi, this is about pets. We walk around pets everywhere and we try to walk them in the safe area, but still, will they get infected, and they can catch it? How to handle this? I mean, I never found any answers to this so far, but I'm trying to ask you this question.
All right, Dr. Mahera?
Was the question about
the pets, that you take your pets for a walk? Is it possible that they can carry the infection by any chance? Can they get affected? I think that's basically what he wanted to know.
Okay. So with pets, so far there is no evidence to suggest that humans are transferring the virus to pets. So broadly, pets are safe. There's been only one case so far in Hong Kong where a pet dog has been identified as weakly positive, and they are monitoring the case. But so far, pets seem to be okay. All I would recommend is maintain adequate hand washing and hygiene when dealing with pets, because outside of the coronavirus, there are a lot of other diseases and germs that can pass between animals and humans. So,
all right. And Dr. Sibal, yes, I think many people wondering, taking your dogs for a walk, it's a time of isolation. If you do go out, if the dog does go out, any sort of, people have doubts regarding that.
Yeah, Gargi, very important question. I think we are in complete lockdown. Complete lockdown means stay at home. Simple. It's very clear. It's not a question about, I've been jogging all my life, I need to go for a jog, I need to take my dog out for a walk. These are extraordinary times that we are living in. So this requires for extraordinary measures. So there is no question of going out for a walk.
We have Arvind calling in from Chennai. Go ahead with your question, Arvind.
Yeah, happy morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Actually, my question is, it is necessary to change our diet patterns, and then is it a wide decision to avoid getting newspapers and milk packets as of now?
All right, Dr. Mahera?
Right. So what I would recommend is, in terms of your dietary habits, yes, eat nutritiously, be careful. People tend to binge a lot more when you're indoors for a long period of time. So take care of your health. Coming to your newspapers and your milk, I think it's safe to bring milk in. A lot of societies are restricting newspapers because we have known that the virus survives on surfaces for a few hours, up to a few days. We are not sure how long yet in our natural environments. But what my recommendation would be, if you are comfortable with online sources and reading up, all these newspapers are available online, so I would encourage that. When it comes to milk, as soon as you receive the milk packet, I would recommend washing the bag thoroughly with soap and water so that you're disinfecting it, and then you should be good.
All right, we have a caller, Khalid from Baramulla. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
My question is specifically to Dr. Mahira. I need to know in these stressful times when there is a lot of stress around, so when there is when there is a lot of misinformation going along, so I need to know how to maintain calm, how to keep your nerves cool in these stressful times.
Right, Doctor.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the question, and it's a very pertinent one. This is a time where a lot of people are feeling anxious because you feel that you're suddenly at an increased risk. There is uncertainty. Having fear is understandable. It's good. It may also motivate you to take the necessary precautions. If it's turning towards panic and anxiety, what you could do is try some yoga, try some breathing exercises yourself. If you feel that you're not being able to cope, please feel free to reach out to mental health care professionals. There is a lot of online platforms, call-in helplines where you can reach out and they can guide you better in terms of getting help. The other thing that will really help you calm down your nerves is to be prepared. By getting the adequate information from reliable sources, you can know and prepare how to deal with the situation. I would like to quote what Dr. Tedros from the World Health Organization says. If it's not reached your community yet, don't assume it will not. Prepare as though it will. Don't assume that the coronavirus won't affect you. Prepare as if it will. And I think if we are well prepared and we are taking the necessary precautions, we are anyway minimizing our risk, and it keeps us empowered.
Absolutely. We have another caller, Ganeshan from Pune. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, please. My question is that many of the people, the moment they hear about this lockdown, they have the fear of stress and they feel suffocated. How this can be overcome? Because the only a psychologist can give the suggestion for this.
To deal with the stress?
Yes.
All right. So again, Dr. Mahira, many people concerned about this 21-day lockdown. It's something we've never seen. We can't anticipate what it'll be like. We've just been through, maybe 2 days, 2-3 days of it, and we have another 21 days to go.
Absolutely. What I'd like to add to already what I said in terms of managing the anxiety, one could try home remedies of breathing exercises, getting adequate information. Another very important factor is physical exercise that we were stressing on earlier, because your mind and body are connected. Taking care and making sure you get adequate sleep at night, making sure you're eating nutritious food. But as much as a lockdown was unasked for by most people and it's a situation you're pushed into, let's understand that there are times, and while you're at home, you can enjoy as well. All of us at some point in our life have said, oh my God, I'm so busy, I can't watch a movie, I can't read that book. This is the time where you can
do everything that you said that you may do, write that book, write those articles, do whatever, spend time with your children, watch movies. We have Rishabh calling in from Gurugram. Go ahead with your question, Rishabh.
Ma'am, I have two questions. My first question is that we have seen that most of the time when we are fed up of wearing the mask, we pull it down below our chin. So is it safe to do so?
And your second question?
And my second question is that, ma'am, since we have seen the example of South Korea, they have done a lot of testing. But in India, that much testing has not been done. So as a doctor, don't you think that the number of tests needs to be increased in order to find the number of people who are actually affected, and then we can also isolate them as quick as possible?
All right, well, that's an issue that has been discussed quite a bit in the media. But yes, Dr. Sibal, go ahead.
Right. So thank you for two very relevant questions. The first question is, you only need to wear a mask if you are in contact with someone who might potentially have this or has been, is in home quarantine after being confirmed. Otherwise, you don't really need to wear a mask. You're going to be indoors. So you don't really need to worry about wearing a mask. And yes, if you are wearing a mask, and that is why all of us in healthcare warn about this false sense of security that you get with a mask. You have a mask and then, you get exposed to someone and the droplets can come onto the mask, and then you touch the mask and then you don't wash your hands. So, a mask can do more harm than good. And there are very clear indications on wearing a mask, and it's largely for healthcare professionals. Coming to your second question about testing, each country has to develop its own policy. And I know because of 30 million WhatsApp messages that come out every minute, and the vast majority of them are on COVID, we tend to get very alarmed when we read about what's happening in other countries with, huge numbers coming up every day and high mortality rates. Now, India, please, let's get this in perspective. No region locked down with 500 cases. A country with 1.35 billion people has locked down with 536 cases. This is very proactive. I think all the strategies that have been in place now for several weeks have been very carefully thought out. Who should be tested? We do not want an unnecessary panic being created. And even if you get tested and you have no symptoms, the answer is still going to be about quarantine. So I think what we have today, with a very clear, guidance that came from the Honorable Prime Minister yesterday about staying indoors, that is what needs to be followed. The experts are developing the strategy in terms of lab testing. For example, till a few days ago, they had 70 odd labs. Now the number of labs has gone up. The ICM has worked really hard to give approval to private sector labs. The capacity has been ramped up. We are getting more and more kits. Indigenous kits are being produced. So if the need arises to test more, the government will issue guidelines. But at this point in time, what worked in a particular region cannot be extrapolated because the healthcare systems are different, behavior patterns are different, how each government has reacted is very different. And I have to say, we as Indians need to be proud of the proactive approach of the government. We really have done this well. I think the strategy has been brilliant. The decisions that needed to be made have been made. They have been made proactively. This is not a reaction. It's a very proactive response. And I think we just need to strictly adhere to guidelines. And these guidelines will change. 2 days from now, if we have a Q&A, the answers might be slightly different.
All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Sibal, for answering those doubts that people have. And Dr. Mahira, thank you so much for speaking to people about how important mental health and exercise and, maintaining optimism in these very stressful times is. So thank you all for watching as well and calling in with your questions. Remember, we'll be here every day at 8:30 to take any queries, any questions that you may have. With that, time for us to slip into a short break. We'll be back with more.